Many years ago, I attended an audio meet in the UK where I got to try the electrostatic headphones made by Stax. They were seriously impressive, but also very expensive. Now, Stax no longer produces its own headphones or amplifiers, and that's because it went out of business in 1995. But thankfully, Edifier ended up picking them up in 2011 to 2012, and that spawned a new era. See, today we are reviewing the Edifier Stax Spirit S3. Over-the-ear, Bluetooth, planar magnetic headphones which have quite a few unique features. Now, Ian's reviewing and seeing if they're actually worth their price tag, because in the US they can be found for around $400 and in the UK they can be found for roughly £320 to £400. So to kick off this video, I want to talk about connectivity, and I do want to first talk about the wired connection. See here, the headphones do have a cable that's provided within the box, and it will give you the best sort of sonic reproduction because, well, ultimately you're relying on a wired connection versus a wireless connection, which will undoubtedly reduce a little bit of the transmission. Now, nevertheless, over here, over a wired connection, you still need to have the headphones powered on, which I do find slightly odd. This could be in part due to the fact that the cable that's included doesn't have an inline microphone, and as a result means that the headphones have to be powered on if in case you want to take any calls. Now, aside from the wired connection, a small little note on having these powered. In other words, if you are to charge these headphones, it will automatically disable any sort of sound, be it in a wired or a wireless format, something yet again that you might want to consider prior to purchasing these headphones. Now, what about when it comes to wireless connectivity? Well, they do have Bluetooth, and the codec support is actually pretty impressive. You've got the SBC, aptX, aptX-HD, and aptX Adaptive, which is a scalable codec and will work on certain smartphones. Alas, my Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus does not support the adaptive codec, but will work on the lower aptX codecs. Now, there is also Snapdragon sound. Now, this is very much a competition to Sony's LDAC codec, which is baked in on pretty much every Android device, and Snapdragon sound is somewhat limited to the devices that can currently use it. I'm sure this will change over time, but here you will need a very modern smartphone, and one that of course does have Snapdragon sound, if you really want to benefit from the highest audio fidelity that you can attain over Bluetooth, and therefore really benefit from the audio reproduction that these headphones can do over a wireless transmission. Now, no matter if you're using a wired or wireless connection, as I did mention before, these have to be powered on, you might be able to pick out a small amount of static sound. Now, this only occurs when music has been recently paused, and I didn't really notice the static sound when I had music playing at a very low volume. It wasn't that noticeable, but it's just something I thought to report on because I did read a few online reviews from consumers that had noticed the problem, and it did throw them off, so much so that they were going to be returning the headphones. And as a result, it's just something I wanted to comment on and of course share my own experiences. So with all of that in mind, how do these headphones actually sound? Well, I did my test over a wired and of course via a wireless connection, bearing in mind that I did say that I can't get the best out of these headphones because I don't have a very modern smartphone, but I suspect many people will be potentially in the same use case as me, whereby they can't actually use the Snapdragon sound or potentially the Qualcomm aptX Adaptive codec. Now, nonetheless, over here, over the aptX codec, I was left seriously impressed. See, the overall sonic reproduction across the frequency range is jaw-dropping, at least for a set of wireless headphones. Now, let me break it down in terms of the overall frequency range. First off, in the sub-bass tones, they produce a really nice low end that actually does extend. Gives you that sort of rumble that you might like in certain D&B, EDM or R&B tracks, all while still providing you that good accuracy across the mid-bass tones. I don't feel that the mid-bass is wobbly in comparison to, let's say, headphones that are produced by Sony, or indeed they're too bass light in comparison to headphones that are produced from, let's say, Sennheiser. Here I feel that the Stax headphones have got a good sort of blend between quantity and quality, and personally I was really left excited in the low-end reproduction. Now, as for the mids, they are a little bit pushed back, but they're nowhere near as pushed back as the likes of, let's say, the Bose NC 700s, which I had laying about at home and was able to test and really A/B compare. Here, the Stax headphones are completely trumping these headphones in this department. Now, in comparison to the Sennheiser Momentum wireless headphones, I would say they're somewhat on par Both headphones still have a little bit of a V-shaped sound, and therefore a little bit one that's slightly warmer in comparison to, let's say, the original Stax electrostatic headphones or more expensive flagship wired audiophile grade headphones. But nonetheless, in the wireless headphone space, I think you'll be very hard pressed to find better mid-range accuracy and a better forward nature. As a result, both male and female vocals came to the foreground and weren't drowned out by the hefty bass that I was experiencing. Now, as for the highs, they extend pretty well at the top end, although I did feel that they were slightly bit rolled off at the very top, but nonetheless gave me that amount of excitement and that toe-tapping feeling. Now, arguably one of the weakest points when it comes to a sound quality point of view with these headphones is the overall soundstage reproduction. See, the instrument separation and the overall width and depth is a little bit lackluster, specifically if you compare them to other flagship wireless headphones from the likes of Sennheiser, Technics, or even, let's say, Nuraphone, among a few others. While it will very much be on par with the likes of, let's say, Sony headphones or Bose headphones, I just think that in this market and the audiophile grade and the price point that they're coming in at, you might have expected a little bit more of an expansive soundstage. You know why you're going to get that airy sound of those electrostatic headphones which are open back. Of course, these are closed back headphones, so that's almost no surprise, but the expansive soundstage isn't quite there. Now, don't get me wrong, it still gives you a very exciting and very engaging sound, and given the overall tonality, imaging and speed is done to perfection, it is somewhat excusable. But it's just worth considering that if you're coming to these headphones expecting that sort of open sound and one that will give you that excellent instrument separation when it comes to, let's say, live recordings, then you're not gonna quite get it. So what about when it comes to recording quality? Well, everything you can hear right now is coming directly from the Edifier headphones, and what I'll say subjectively is that the call quality is actually pretty impressive. However, the microphones are also able to pick out a lot of the exterior environment. Now, to give you a little bit of a demo of this, I'm going to play back my friend's track, which is from Priya J, titled Falling, and the music's coming directly from my bookshelf speakers. And when I'm continuing to speak, you can still hear her voice, and if I go quiet, so hopefully that gives you a little indication of how it would do in a controlled environment. I'll be switching to another headphone very soon. But what I'll say in a real world scenario is that yes, it's going to be picking out a lot of voices if you're in a cafeteria, a busy commute, or for example on a road. The Edifier headphones do not hone into your own voice, but rather go into the exterior environment. Of course, bearing in mind what I said before, I don't have the aptX voice because I don't have a modern smartphone, but here it just gives you an indication of how the headphones would perform when it comes to using it with any regular headphone or one that doesn't have the aptX voice functionality enabled. Now, just for comparison, here are the Bose NC 700, and hopefully you'll be able to agree with me that the Bose don't sound as clear when it comes to my voice recordings. However, again, in a real world scenario, if we were to play back Priya J's tracks through my bookshelf speakers while I'm speaking, you might be able to hardly hear her voice, even when I go quiet. And that's because the Bose NC 700s are concentrating on my voice rather than prioritizing the overall recording or call quality of the entire environment that surrounds me. Now moving on, we get onto the Edifier Connect app, and here you can see through the interface, you can see the remaining battery level, and then you've got leather earmuffs and ice feeling earmuffs which you can select. This will alter slightly the sound signature, and in my case I actually prefer the leather earmuff sound signature, no matter if I was running the fabric or leather style ear pads. Now if you were to scroll through, you have got a basic EQ, in other words pre-assigned EQ between classic, hi-fi and Stax. I find that the latter two are quite poor, whereby they completely reduce the mid-range accuracies and make it sound a little bit rolled off at the top end, and as a result I found myself gravitating towards the classic EQ. It is particularly disappointing given the target market that Edifier haven't provided a multi-band EQ. Scrolling through again, we then have game mode, which you can enable or disable. Now note, I had no problems running any sort of YouTube videos or lip sync delays or video lag with game mode disabled, but of course if you're a hardcore gamer, you want to reduce all sorts of latency, you might want to enable game mode on. Now on that note, the headphones also have Bluetooth multi-point, which allows you to simultaneously pair the headphones with two separate source devices. Let's say for example a smartphone and a laptop, and allows you to switch seamlessly between the two. And elsewhere on that note, when the headphones are connected over a Bluetooth connection, you might notice a little blue LED that keeps flashing. And indeed, that blue LED cannot be disabled, and it's quite a shame that they consistently stay flashing while the headphones are paired, and this might throw off a few individuals. Now, to further customize the headphones, you have to press on the cog icon at the top right of the app, and here you'll see a few basic options. For example, you have got the multi-function key settings, which in my opinion are quite basic. It would have been great to see a bit more customization, but alas, that's not the case. Note, if you do want to go previous or next on the song, you'll want to hold down the up or down key, so which also translate to a volume level. But nonetheless, here you can enable, let's say, voice assistant if you want, but it's weird that you can't actually disable the buttons. There's no do nothing mode, but nonetheless, anyway, you might find that a little bit redundant. Now, other than that, you can see what is paired, and you can also repair them. You can have a time shutdown, and you can factory reset them. Elsewhere, you've got a prompt volume, which you can adjust in terms of the volume itself, and it's also a shame over here that you can't fully disable the prompt volume. In other words, when it says pairing or switching between, let's say, the different EQ modes, you can't actually disable that altogether, and indeed you have to hear that audible cue each time. Now, moving on from the app, I do want to talk about the build quality and a few of the features of these headphones, or potentially a lack of them, because here the headphones do not have active noise cancellation built in comparison to a lot of its competitors that come in at the same price point. You would have potentially expected some sort of ANC technology to be featured, but unfortunately that is not the case. Now, elsewhere, I was a little bit disappointed by the overall build quality of these headphones. Now, while they do fold and also pivot and give you that sort of functionality that's great for portability's sake, and the fact that you have got ear pads that can be replaced, and as I did mention before, you have got also two separate sound profiles and therefore giving you a bit more customization, the creakiness of these headphones was not that appreciated, and also the buttons that were placed on the headphones, whereby it gives you the ability to control your media, at least on a wireless connection, was just all too loud and therefore resonated in my ear. Now, I'm not sure how much my microphone was able to pick out in terms of the creaky sound, but I can certainly say that the audible clicks will be heard, specifically when they're around your ears. Now, this perfectly brings me on to comfort, and here within the box you have two types of ear pads, mesh fabric and also the leather style. Now, the leather ones, in my opinion, produce a little bit of better sound quality, but the mesh ones are a little bit more comfortable, mainly due to their breathable nature. Of course, this is very subjective. Likewise is the overall clamp force. I had no problems using these headphones with my reading glasses on, or indeed if I were to wear sunglasses, be it if I'm walking or indeed going on a very light jog. If, however, I was going to be using these in the gym, I would be scared of making these headphones fall off, because the clamp force is a little bit weak for that, and as such means that I'd have to just bear that in mind. Of course, this is very much depending on how you're going to be using these headphones, but it's just something I thought to share and feed back to you about. Now, speaking about taking them out the house, here you'll be pleased to know that Edifier has included a nice hard shell carrying case, which also has a little stylish mesh compartment found within it, which gives you the ability to take, let's say, charging cables. Now, of course, when it comes to taking them out on the bout, the battery life is very important, and here Edifier claimed that you'll be able to run for 80 hours. Now, I can't quite attest to this, but I can safely say that while I was using them for a prolonged amount of time, I didn't even have to charge them a singular time, which is seriously impressive. Better still, the 1500 mAh battery can be quick charged thanks to the USB Type-C port, and here it will take around 10 minutes to give you an 11 hours of playback time, which is absolutely insane. Now, if you want to fully charge them, it'll take roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours, so just worth considering that, but that is very little time given the amount of playback time that you're going to be able to achieve. In this department, I would say that the Edifier or Stax headphones are absolutely class leading. So with all of that in mind, it brings me on to my verdict of the Edifier Stax Spirit S3 headphones. And frankly, I think they're one of the best sounding Bluetooth headphones that I've ever come across. They do a fantastic job across the frequency range, and also with their codec support, at least if you have the right sort of source device, you might be able to attain absolutely spectacular audio transmission. As a result, they get my performance award. However, I can't quite outright recommend them because there's quite a few flaws. They don't have active noise cancellation. Their microphones do pick out a lot of environmental sound, making them less than ideal when it comes to taking calls. The build quality could definitely be improved from the button presses or the creaky nature, and the app could be a little bit more refined, including having dedicated EQ controls. Frankly, there's a lot of things that Edifier or Stax could improve on, but it's definitely a great starting point. The thing to also consider is that they're also pretty expensive in comparison to what else you can find out there in the market, making them potentially a little less alluring. Nonetheless, I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts of the headphones down in the comments section below, and if you've liked this independent detailed review and want to see more from myself, definitely do drop a like, subscribe and hit that bell notification, all of which is greatly appreciated and allows me to continue delivering honest reviews like this one. As such, I've been Totally Dubbed, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.